On a Sunday evening in Houston, an engineer sits at the kitchen table of the one-bedroom apartment he shares with his wife. His laptop is open, his phone is beside it. His wife is in the bedroom speaking with her younger sister in Nigeria over video call. The engineer has been looking at his bank statement for about 40 minutes. After the money he has sent home this month, he has $492 left in his checking account. His next paycheck will arrive in 11 days. His rent is due in 8. Earlier in the month, he sent $1,200 to pay his younger brother's university fees. The week before, he sent $400 toward an aunt's hospital bill. A cousin in London had already paid part of it, but the family still needed more. Tonight, he is preparing to send another $800 to his mother for the household's general expenses. His wife will add $200 when she receives her paycheck from her part-time job at a private school. He opens the Wise app. The transfer takes about 8 minutes. The fee is approximately $17. He confirms the payment and waits for the message showing that the money has arrived. When the confirmation appears, he places the phone face down on the table. He remains there for several minutes before getting up to prepare dinner. The engineer, his wife, the household, and the transfers described here are composites. The details come from experiences shared across the Nigerian diaspora and many other migrant communities. No single family is being portrayed. The first 5 episodes followed the household in Nigeria. This episode follows the money sent back by the people who have left. Remittances are personal transfers made by migrants to people in their countries of origin. They may pay for food, education, healthcare, housing, funerals, weddings, businesses, or emergencies. Each transfer may appear small when viewed on one bank statement. Together, they form one of the largest financial movements in the world. The World Bank estimated that migrants sent approximately $685 billion to low and middle income countries in 2024. That was more than those countries received through foreign direct investment and official development assistance combined. India received the largest amount at an estimated $129 billion. Mexico received approximately $68 billion. China received $48 billion. The Philippines received $40 billion. Pakistan received $33 billion. Bangladesh received about $27 billion. Egypt received about $22 billion. Nigeria received approximately $20.93 billion, according to the Central Bank of Nigeria. Sub-Saharan Africa received about $56 billion altogether. Nigeria, therefore, received more than 1/3 of the remittances sent to the entire region. This money has become an important part of Nigeria's economy. It brings foreign currency into the country and helps households pay expenses that wages and public services do not cover. The United States is one of the largest sources of remittances in the world. Other major sending countries include Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, the United Kingdom, Germany, and France. Money moves between these countries through several systems. The oldest system is the Money Transfer Company. Western Union and MoneyGram operate through physical agents in cities, towns, shops, post offices, and banks across the world. A migrant brings money to an agent or pays online. The recipient collects the funds from another agent or receives them in a bank account or mobile wallet. These companies remain important because their physical networks reach people who may not have bank accounts or reliable internet access. Their services have also historically been expensive. The total cost can include a transfer fee and an exchange rate that gives the recipient less local currency than the market rate would provide. Banks provide another channel. They move money between accounts through correspondent banks and international systems such as SWIFT. Bank transfers are often the most expensive option. World Bank data for early 2025 placed the average cost of sending remittances through banks at more than 14% of the amount transferred. A person sending $200 could therefore lose almost $30 before the money reaches the household. Digital services have reduced that cost in many countries. Wise, Remitly, WorldRemit, Zoom, SendWave, and similar companies allow migrants to send money through websites and phone applications. They operate with fewer physical branches and often charge lower fees. World Bank figures for early 2025 placed the average cost of digital transfers at about 3.5%. Traditional money transfer operators averaged closer to 6%. Banks remained much higher. Competition has made some routes much cheaper than others. A Nigerian living in the United States may be able to send $500 for a total cost close to 2 or 3%. A worker sending money between two African countries may pay far more. Transfers from South Africa to Zimbabwe or from Tanzania to Burundi may cost a much larger percentage because fewer companies serve those routes and the total volume is lower. The United Nations has set a target of reducing the average cost of remittances to less than 3% by 2030. It also seeks to eliminate routes where the cost remains above 5%. The global average has fallen over the past decade, but it remains well above the target. In 2024, migrants paid an estimated $45 billion in fees and exchange rate costs. That is money earned by migrants that never reached their families. The companies and banks providing the transfer service received it instead. This does not mean the services have no cost to operate. It means the price of moving money has become another expense carried by the migrant. Mobile money has changed this system in parts of Africa. The best known example is M-Pesa in Kenya. M-Pesa began in 2007 as a way for people to send and receive money through mobile phones. It allowed people without conventional bank accounts to store money, pay bills, make purchases, and transfer funds through local agents. The service expanded rapidly. By 2024, Kenya's rate of adult financial inclusion had risen far above where it stood before M-Pesa began. Mobile money did not remove transfer costs, but it gave millions of people access to financial services that banks had not provided. Once money reaches a Nigerian household, it usually goes toward ordinary expenses. Most families do not treat remittances as unexpected gifts. The payments often become part of the household's monthly planning. School fees are one of the largest uses. A migrant may pay for younger siblings, nieces, nephews, cousins, or godchildren. Healthcare is another major use. When a relative needs surgery, medication, testing, or hospital care, family members abroad may receive calls or messages asking them to contribute. Money also goes toward food, rent, electricity, transportation, and household repairs. Some migrants build houses in their hometowns. The house may be intended for retirement, for parents, for visits home, or as proof that the years abroad have produced something visible. Weddings and funerals also depend heavily on money from abroad. A family may postpone a funeral until relatives in London, Houston, Toronto, or Atlanta have gathered enough money to pay for it. A wedding may be financed partly through contributions from siblings and cousins living outside Nigeria. Remittances also fund small businesses. A relative may use the money to open a shop, purchase equipment, buy goods for resale, or begin farming. Studies generally find that most remittance income goes toward immediate household needs. A smaller share goes into businesses, property, and other long-term investments. That balance changes over time. A migrant who has recently left may send a large portion of each paycheck home. Years later, the same person may have children, a mortgage, medical costs, and other responsibilities in the country where they now live. The household abroad and the household at home then compete for the same income. The people sending remittances work across many parts of the economy. They are nurses, doctors, domestic workers, caregivers, drivers, cleaners, construction workers, factory workers, hotel employees, teachers, engineers, and business owners. Many work below the professional level for which they were trained. A person may have been a lawyer, accountant, teacher, or engineer at home and work in transport, retail, care work, or hospitality after migrating. Migration researchers often call this brain waste. The migrant earns more than they might have earned at home, but less than their education and experience should command in the new country. The difference still makes remitting possible. A nurse earning a British or American salary can send money that carries much greater purchasing power in Nigeria. This wage difference drives much of the global remittance economy. Nigeria's medical workforce offers a clear example. Thousands of doctors trained in Nigeria now work in the United Kingdom. Nigeria paid much of the cost of educating them. The British health system receives trained doctors without paying the full cost of producing them. The doctors may send part of their salaries to relatives in Nigeria. Their families benefit from those transfers. Nigeria's hospitals still lose the doctors. The money sent to individual households does not replace the public investment or medical service lost through migration. The Philippines has organized labor migration more formally than most countries. Millions of Filipinos work abroad as nurses, domestic workers, seafarers, caregivers, and service workers. Their remittances make up a significant share of the Philippine economy. The government has built agencies around recruiting, documenting, training, and protecting overseas workers, although workers still face exploitation and separation from their families. Mexico's remittance economy is closely tied to the United States. Geographic proximity allows some migrants to travel back and forth, while others settle permanently and continue sending money for decades. The United States-Mexico route is one of the largest remittance corridors in the world. These national examples differ, but the household pattern is familiar. A person leaves because wages are higher elsewhere. The person begins earning abroad. The household at home begins to rely on part of that income. What began as temporary help can become a regular obligation. Writers and researchers have documented this experience from many perspectives. Dilip Ratha has led much of the World Bank's research on migration and remittances. Racel Salazar Pareñas has studied Filipino migrant women, domestic labor, and families separated across borders. Devesh Kapoor has examined how the Indian diaspora influences India through money, politics, education, and professional networks. Hinda has challenged popular assumptions about migration, including the idea that restrictive policies necessarily stop people from moving. He argues that wage differences and labor demand continue to drive migration even when governments make legal entry more difficult. Novelists and memoirists have also described the experience from within migrant households. Imbolo Mbue's Behold the Dreamers follows a Cameroonian family in New York during the financial crisis of 2008. The family's life in the United States remains connected to expectations and financial needs in Cameroon. Yaa Gyasi's novels follow Ghanaian and Ghanaian American families across generations and across the Atlantic. Reina Grande's memoir, The Distance Between Us, describes childhood, migration, and the money that connected her family across Mexico and the United States. Jose Antonio Vargas writes about being sent from the Philippines to the United States as a child and growing up without legal immigration status. These accounts show that remittances are never only financial, the money carries relationships. It may carry gratitude, fear, affection, pressure, duty, resentment, hope, or guilt. Often it carries several of these at once. The remittance economy depends, first, on the wage difference between countries. A domestic worker in Hong Kong can earn many times what the same worker could earn in Manila. A Nigerian nurse in Britain can earn several times what the nurse would earn in Lagos. A Mexican construction worker in Texas can earn much more than a worker doing similar work in parts of Mexico. Families respond to these differences by helping one member migrate. They may pay for education, examinations, applications, recruitment fees, airfare, or visas. Once that person begins earning, the household expects a return on its investment. Immigration systems determine who can enter the higher paying countries and what work they may perform. The United States uses programs such as H-1B, H-2A, and J-1 visas. The United Kingdom recruits workers through routes including the Health and Care Worker Visa. Canada and Australia use skilled migration programs. Gulf countries have relied heavily on sponsorship systems that connect a migrant's legal status to an employer. These systems shape how much freedom migrants have to change jobs, negotiate wages, or leave abusive conditions. They also shape how much money migrants are able to send. The movement of trained workers creates another transfer between countries. A lower income country pays to educate a doctor, nurse, teacher, or engineer. A wealthier country receives that worker after the training is complete. The migrant may send money back to relatives, but the sending country still loses part of its trained workforce. Looking only at the remittance payment can therefore hide the value moving in the other direction. The engineer in Houston eats dinner with his wife at 9:30. They discuss the aunt's hospital bill. The family has not yet raised the full amount. They discuss a funeral later in the year and whether they can afford 2 flights to Nigeria. They briefly discuss their own future. They want a larger apartment. They may want children. They need savings. None of those decisions is resolved because the needs of the families at home remain immediate. At 10:30, the conversation ends. The engineer sets his alarm for 5:45 the next morning. In Nigeria, his mother received the transfer confirmation hours earlier. She has already moved to the next household matter. She calls a relative about an upcoming naming ceremony. She calls an older daughter about school fees. She contacts the family of a possible husband for her youngest daughter. She does not think of herself as participating in a global remittance economy. Her son sent money home. That is how the system appears from her side. I know this process. I have worked out which request I could meet and which one would have to wait. I have received messages about hospital bills and school fees and understood what the message was asking before the request was stated directly. I have watched one transfer lead to another because meeting one need does not stop the next need from arriving. The person sending the money may feel responsible for the household's survival. The person receiving it may see the transfer as part of the relationship the family has always maintained. Both people organize their lives around the same money from opposite sides of the distance. The next episode examines what this continuing responsibility does to the migrant's own life, finances, relationships, and sense of freedom.